mega dungeon called Rappan Athuk. Um, it comprises of about 700 individual dungeon tiles from the Fat Dragon Games company. Um, it took me, I believe it was about 2.5 months to print it all out. And I'm currently in the process of painting it up for use at GameholeCon this November.
How many, when you say printed up, how many printers are we talking about, Keith?
I have 4 printers, and I know you did a little bit too. So we basically had 5 printers on this project.
And how many pieces total, roughly?
It's right around 700 pieces.
I'm still amazed. And I was working on it because I could do nine at a time without a crash, and nine of the 2 inch or they're 2 inch by 2 inch pieces. And I was only
Hmm.
doing floors. He was doing walls, and he was doing all kinds of stuff. And it took 6 weeks, first to get dialed in the settings, but then just of all night, the constant. It's not loud. The printer's not terribly loud, but it vibrates a little bit, and it's like a buzz. And my
Hmm.
friend Jim Wampler told me that consider it like the angelic choir of the future, because what you're doing is you're actually listening to technology do its thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, what first of all, when we went to Texas, tell me a little bit about your experience when we showed up there to set it up.
Oh, wow. That was my first time going to that convention, which was pretty awesome there. Um, and I got a chance to meet all of you, and then me and you and John Ling. Took us 5.5 hours to assemble that thing and get it up and running so we could play on it and show it off.
Yeah, no, the funny part of that is it took it took like a half hour just to look and figure out what was where, and it came in three large boxes
Hmm.
stuffed full of tiles, and they have to be clipped together. And if you have a tile, do you have a tile handy?
Um, yeah, actually, I have one. Yeah,
You can
let's
kind
see
of
here.
see it in the picture there on the screen, but there's a little slot in the bottom of each of the four sides of it. There we go. And that little slot has a clip, and this is what Fat Dragon Games did, and they did well, was they made a system where they all clip together. So it's like a Legos in a way. It's like Nerd Barbie Dollhouse too. So you're building a great big thing, and you're clipping it together one at a time. And so we had it unpainted, but it was the entire level of Rappan Athuk, the level what is it, one
Level
C,
1C.
one C, and there are a couple pieces that are being fabricated for us, especially, but in general, it was the entire dungeon level set up, and it was pretty impressive. It really was, Keith. You did a really good job. You impressed everybody who saw it. Even
Yeah,
Stefan Percorni was there from Dwarven Forge, and he came by the table and just talked about how great it was as 3D printed and how wonderful it was to see people print dungeons. And I'm thinking, this is the guy who invented it, and he's awesome.
yeah. I still remember his the first few words out of his mouth was, "This is amazing."
He's the nicest guy, and without him, this wouldn't even be a thing. He had
Yeah,
a vision way back that he was going to build the world's greatest miniature dungeon. So the rest of us nerds, we didn't know we needed it, but when we had it, we knew we saw it, we had to have it. And a lot of people, it's expensive, and this is not like really a super cheap replacement either, but it is less expensive. Just with your time, as long as your time is free.
yeah, definitely.
So let's see some more pictures here as we go. So that's walls. So these are all the wall units, and like the sarcophagus is a printed unit as well, correct?
Correct. Yeah, yeah. There's a bunch of dungeon dressings that I'm also printing off for that dungeon too.
Can you see the screen there? What we're looking at?
Yeah. So
Okay.
there's a evil altar there, and then some wall pieces. Another, yeah, and
Yeah.
here's the bottom of the tiles.
So this is like basically when you build a 3D print, it like layers it up one layer at a time, and the layers are like, I don't know, whether they're 0.02 millimeter or something, some insanely tiny.
Yeah,
I don't know, zero point 0.2 I think is more close,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it
Point
is
two.
it is it's a long time. Like that whole rack on there, how long do you think that took? That's 12 tiles.
That's 12 tiles, and that probably took around 20 hours.
Yeah, that's.
If it was the walls, I can't remember if that was floor tiles or walls there.
But it would take me 18 hours for 9, and so it was it watching it happen is really cool the first 2 times. Um, the other times it's still interesting in a way, but it becomes like you start recognizing just how far along you are by whether or not it's reached a certain point. It's like watching a sand in a timer, but it's
Yeah.
neat. You went with white on this one, but I know in the next project you went with gray. Why?
It was actually a suggestion by Stefan Picorni to go with the gray. Um, that way it's easier if you didn't have access to the primer, because you could start putting paint on it right away with gray and put a dry brush on there.
And you have some of those pictures at the end of here, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll get there. And
Yep.
so that is the stairs.
It looks like there's a little bit of a delay, but
Oh, yeah, there is. Sorry, it's a. Well,
yeah.
where these stairs lead, I can actually. You are unlike me, and when you post
Okay.
stuff, you post captions, so that helps.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I see it now. So there's stairs there, and then there's some trap floors openings there. Um,
Okay, and then that's the same thing again. Oh, yeah, 26 hours later, you have more stairs. Yes. All right. Okay, so uh, when you made these, how much do you think they cost per piece in PLA, just in the cost, not your time or printer maintenance or anything?
um, per piece for, well, it obviously depends on if it's just a little tiny floor tile or if it's like those stairs, depending on how big it is. The little tiny floor tiles, just in PLA, probably a dime, 15 cents a piece, maybe. It's not too expensive.
Times 700 pieces and 1,200 hours. But no, it's not. And actually, it's what makes it neat is that they are so versatile that, and I love the new stuff by Steph Picorni, but you can take the one that we're going to offer this. Keith is going to actually print one if somebody wants to pick one up at a Kickstarter coming up. But we're going to offer this, but you'll be able to remake this into a whole lot of other ones. It is so versatile, and you can. They have cavern tiles too. They have all kinds of tiles you can use besides the ones you're seeing on this little video here. But it is a way that if you are the kind of nerd that would be our kind of nerd, you would have with a room. You could build almost anything and run campaigns that we only used to dream about when we were young. So,
Yeah.
let's see here. And so they have working doors, don't they?
Yes, they do.
And any other kind of working pieces or like that? Anything special you used?
So with the doors, they actually have about 5 different types of doors that you can interchange. So if you want an iron door, you could throw one in. If you want a warped wooden door that's kind of damaged, you could throw that in there. They have a portcullis with the that comes up and down. There's secret doors where the wall turns.
And that was something that we had to get made special, correct? Because of the way
Ye-
the map was.
Correct. There are some areas where we needed a special secret door.
And I assure you, when Matt Finch designed this map, he did not have 3D printed modules in mind. So there were places where Keith had to do some creative work to make it work. But when you see the final thing, it looks just like the map. I only noticed the differences because he showed me. And so let's talk a little bit about how you got started in this. Like I tagged you about 3D printers and we talked, and I said, hey, I have this idea, and what did you have to do to make it happen? What were your steps from, hey, I have an idea for you, man, to now?
So the first step is I had to crack open the book, Rappan Athuk, and at that time we didn't know if we were going to do this particular dungeon or not. But there was a few different levels we looked at that we wanted. So I went through looked at which one was the easiest to reproduce for the first time, and I settled on this one here being the easiest one to start with. Once I did that, it
Which
was a
is
matter.
to interrupt, which is convenient because the Mouth of Doom level is now the one that most parties use to get into Rappan Athuk. When Bill designed the dungeon originally, there was no easy way in. This was Matt Finch's like outside camp to get in, so lower level people could enjoy it, and it worked well. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. It's actually one of the levels because I have a group that I'm running a 5e conversion of Rappan Athuk 2, and I was like, ooh, this is the low level entry, so it's one that also intrigued me to do. But anyhow, once we figured on this level, it was just a matter of sitting down with the map and trying to kind of line it up and figuring out how many of which tile I needed to print out, and just started printing. And once I got probably about 50% of it printed, I started actually assembling it and laying it out on the floor. And I think there's a picture here somewhere of it as I'm building it out on the floor. And then, yeah, eventually I got it put together.
We have some pictures of it being assembled here now.
Cool.
And so of all the, so you put it together on your floor, and then I would get pictures of it, and I was just amazed. And I'm printing the flat floor tiles, which it turned out I actually printed incorrectly for complicated reasons that I won't bore a stream about. But it was not, we couldn't use the clips when we did it. Thankfully, the dungeon was so stable that it worked. So, but they actually used it in Texas. We didn't just show it off to everybody. It was used to run groups into Rappan Athuk, and it was for being a prototype, it was really something. It impressed my boss, Bill Webb, a lot. And why wouldn't it? I mean, this is Rappan Athuk's his baby. But Skeeter Green, the other guy, one of the other guys from Frog God, he ran games on it, and people they loved it. And so we are making more. One of them is a top secret one, and one of them is for a product coming up that's not Rappan Athuk. And that one is launching in February, but it is Judges Guild's Teagle Manor. It is a little more complicated for reasons that involve curves, but that one's going to be bigger as well. But we know it's doable now, right?
I'm still taking a look at it. It probably is doable for sure. But yeah, this thing is going to be twice the size of this guy. I think I was figuring in 12 feet wide, 15 feet long to reproduce that one.
And we want you to do it, and we're going to make sure that you're taken care of, because at a convention, we already talked about how we're going to be able to store them and keep them at conventions, and it makes a huge difference to have a draw. It's not only is it more fun for everybody that's playing, but it also is it brings you into our games. We have long books. Our books are heavy and long, and it's hard sometimes to find new gamers that want to try something. I mean, it's a lot to ask somebody to say, "Hey, you want to spend $140 on a book?" No, but I'm real proud of the stuff we make. I'm glad Frog God recruited me. I'm glad to be a part of it because it's so good. But this is the kind of thing that can help sell that, and that was what made me want to do it. Besides the fact that it is really cool. I'm sorry, but printing your own dungeon in your house is about the most bleeding edge nerd I can imagine. So
yeah.
So tell me a little bit about doing the painting and stuff afterwards. Like after we took it down and had it shipped back to you. By the way, it's really durable. It can ship no problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I think out of all those pieces, there was only one that I went in and just reprinted. But out of 700 tiles, they shipped really awesome.
Well, Michael Badalotto, who shipped it now, owes us 15 cents.
Oh.
I'll add it to his tab.
Gotcha. So once they came back in, I had to unpack them all and unassemble because some of them were still in, the big rooms and whatnot. So that took me a good day to do. And then I've been in the process of priming all these pieces. I'm probably about 95% complete with all the priming, and I recently started the process of actually painting all these up.
So tell me a little bit about the priming. How important is the priming to make these pieces like long lasting, I guess is the way to put it.
It's going to help to make sure the paint adheres to the pieces to hold up a little longer. You can apply paint directly to these 3D pieces. They actually take paint quite well, but we're going to be using these. You're going to be using them at conventions, and people are going to be playing on it. So definitely want the paint job to stand up to it.
I know it's actually, but the best part is people are going to get to play on them. I'm Tom Tullis is the guy from Fat Dragon Games who had done this, and I'm consistently amazed how good the pieces are, and how you had to think that this was going to be a thing. I mean, I knew what 3D printers were, but I thought they were for printing out like bones from X-rays so doctors could look at them and stuff. I never thought in a million years it would be A, something that you could have at home, and B, something that somebody would make dungeon pieces for, which is the coolest thing ever. Don't get me wrong. I've printed out a whole Stormtrooper helmet because I could, and like various other little knickknacks. And this one is at the top by far. The stuff that Keith has done has been amazing. And I have a picture here of your priming location, by the way. And I see that you have a large just number. Do you spray paint them?
This is some primer and paint that I use. And yeah, I just get a whole bunch of these cans because it's actually quicker to use the cans than to try and use the airbrush on doing large volumes of these.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is out in my garage, and actually I had a couple big boxes that I broke down and put all the pieces on and started priming them up.
And so an airbrush would not be economical at all.
No,
Okay.
no, not for large scale projects doing terrain like this.
So you painted one up, but we have a picture up there that you'll see in a second of it has one prime piece and then one piece that's painted, and that's painted with the acrylics.
Yes. Yeah, there's the side by side. So the one there on the left is the finished piece using the acrylic paints, and the one on the right is just with the primer.
All right. And how long does it take you to paint one piece? So I mean, it already took you forever to print it. So what are you adding?
Actually, the painting goes pretty quick. It's kind of hard to say how long it takes for each piece, because I'll open up one thing of paint and I'll just go step by step painting, the individual brick, all the colors, and just do a mass array of those, then come back with another color and just.
I don't mean to laugh, but that's some intensity, man. That really is. And this is a guy who will spend. I'll spend 18 hours a day on InDesign or Photoshop when I have to, and I'm not even a great graphic artist, but I can sit there and look at details all day, so I understand. But it's just, to me, it's just fascinating that you can do that. Do you listen to music or watch TV or anything?
I'll usually have like Facebook off to the side, and then I got my printers over off to the side.
Yeah,
watching them and hearing the hum of those. Yeah.
Tell me this now. I want to go ahead, and you have a business with this, and that's kind of why. That's how I ran into you. Though I didn't know you were going to do the business right away. You've been planning this, so that's why you knew so much about it. So tell us a little bit about that, please. And I'm going to pull up the website here in 1 sec.
Okay. So I started up the company. It's called roleplayingterrain.com. I was planning this to go towards the end of this year. But before I got that far along, I started getting approached by different companies if I wanted to sign up for a commercial license. So the first one that hit me up was Printable Scenery. I picked up their license, followed very shortly thereafter by Tom over at Fat Dragon Games. And I've picked up a couple more, and I'm in the works of picking up even a few more different lines. So for those people that don't have a 3D printer, or they don't want the hassle of buying one and building it or running one. I offer the ability to print you out a piece and ship it to you.
What kind of pieces do you like are commonly requested for you?
Right now, a lot of the pieces that are coming up are a lot of the buildings by Printable Scenery. I find it kind of odd that I'm not getting a lot of dungeon pieces requested, but it's mainly the buildings for like Frostgrave or Bolt Action. The trees are pretty popular. Um,
Do you, is it because more people are familiar with regular terrain than the dungeon terrain? Because before it's been so cost prohibitive to actually own. Is that part of it, or?
that's part of it. I think the other thing, honestly, is anyone who wants a dungeon knows you need lots of dungeon pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of those people have decided that they're going to go ahead and just pick up their own 3D printer and print their own.
Which isn't a bad call, except that we did it with five printers, and I had to buy a brand new printer that I used to have. I had a really inexpensive entry one. No, that didn't work. I had to get one that was about $600, and the frogs didn't even pay for it either. Those cheap asses. No, but it's a nice printer, but you have to. The entry level ones won't do it. So in order to get into this, you have to pay a certain amount. The plastic's not free, and it takes a ton of time. So one printer would have taken you 13 months to print this thing.
Probably.
Constant printing. So I mean, it's a solution, but it's not an ideal one. Where you have people like yourself who have what's 5 now or 6.
Yeah, 5 of them. And actually, I calculated out the total print time for all these pieces, and it was just under 7,000 print hours.
That's a lot. But you know, it's kind of like we have thousands of man hours in our books, but it's spread around. But it's something. I'm looking on the site. So tell me again about the buildings that you make, who they're from, and who you've made them for, like what kind of campaigns and stuff.
So most of the buildings I have are from a company called Printable Scenery. And they have your fantasy range of buildings, churches, medieval houses, watermills. There's World War II buildings, like Normandy type buildings, trenches, bunkers. There's also some sci-fi stuff on there for buildings and ruins and whatnot. There's a bunch of scattered terrain. There's even a frigate ship you can get printed out, and a longship.
A wooden frigate or an Ironside frigate?
A wooden
cool.
frigate.
Awesome. Iron Men wooden ships, man. No, but it's interesting, and I was actually in the Kickstarter for the buildings, and I have not printed one yet. Mostly because I've been printing it. You're doing your bidding, because you're like my boss in this project. And I would do what he said, and I'd have to ask him how many tiles I needed and what I was doing wrong, because you had it going on. But
Gotcha.
I can tell you, everybody who watches the stream, if you want something 3D printed, I would recommend you buy something like from him first, and so you see what it actually feels like. And it feels like plastic that's been made, but it isn't quite the same. And so before you go and buy a $600 printer and to go to town, you might want to see some 3D printed stuff. And there's probably people you can look at, but what amazed me was they're really durable. Now, you can see sometimes they're like the layering on the plastic, and there's ways to fix it. But honestly, I think you could throw that thing against the wall as hard as you could, and it just hurt your wall. So they are safe around kids, unless they swallow them. So, but yeah, I would check them out first as well. I was going to ask one other thing of you. When you are finished with all the painting of these, and what would you like to see made by these other companies that isn't made now in 3D printing for this kind of thing? Not more Stormtrooper helmets or extra cosplay stuff, but stuff that you would use, unless you use cosplay stuff.
Stuff that I would use, and I've gotten lots of requests for, is elven buildings, kind of like, everyone likes Rivendell for Lord of the Rings, but no one actually has a line that I'm aware of to build your own elven city like Rivendell. So
Do you
I
think
think that
you,
would be
you
awesome.
think that's because the 3D modeling of it's more complicated because of the lines and the curves and such?
Yeah, I believe that's what it is. I mean, there's some real intricate designs woven into the elven buildings, but I'm pretty sure it'll come. It's just a matter of time. But I think that would fill a niche and a need in the community that there's a lot of request for right now.
Yeah, and we did one other thing together that because people who are fans of Frog God games know that we were Necromancer games at one time, especially when Rappan Athuk came out. I'm going to try to pull up here. I have, I think, the model itself of. Well, why don't you tell us what is it, Keith?
It
Explain
is
it.
a it is a dice box with the old Necromancer Games logo on the top. It's got a friction fitted top that comes off, revealing, I believe there's 12 compartments to hold your dice. And in the center, there's room where you could put probably about two or maybe even three miniatures you could put in there. Um,
I was going to pull up the 3D model, but I'm on the wrong computer. But I'm going to pull a picture here real quick. And
okay.
it was really neat. And we actually had to hire somebody to take the logo and put it on a box. And he did
Hmm.
it. It was pretty expensive. He was really good and he was really fast. But let me see. Pull the picture up here. There it is. All right, and let's see here. So this that's gone, and there it is. And so it's a plastic dice box. It has the Necromancer Games logo. It when printed at a high print level with a little bit of treatment, it comes out really nice and it's fairly unique because he's not allowed to sell it. Only person allowed to sell it is Keith. So you can get in touch with Keith, I'm sure, on through his fantasy train site, your online printable train.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'll be putting it up on the site here pretty soon.
and so he's licensed to do this, and mostly because I wanted to give one of these to Bill Webb, and it's a secret, except that he'll never watch this. And I wanted it as a gift, and then Keith, because he's been so helpful in doing all these things, and his compensation involves people buying a dungeon during a Kickstarter a while from now, so it's kind of a way to scratch my back, he scratched your back, and we made it something useful. If you are fans of ours and want one of these bad boys, I'm sure he can hook you up.
Yep.
All righty. Well, I think that we covered what we want to cover. I appreciate your time again, Keith. You may
Oh,
not
you're
know it, but
welcome.
this is the third time we've tried this, but now it's working. So,
Yeah.
anyway, thanks for if you got this far and watched it. Thanks for watching it, Keith. Thanks for your time, and
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it.
All right. Take care.